Thank you, Anish, for that very warm welcome. Is this mic too much, or can everyone hear me? Okay, good morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be back at this mega industry event. In my long and exciting career, I've been very fortunate to have worked with brands across categories, across continents, and mostly what's excited me about this has been getting a ringside view of where this customer has been heading. And I've really enjoyed that journey of seeing how the customer has transformed itself, how this consumer's needs, habits have changed, and that's really what I'm going to talk to you about. I was hoping to first understand from the audience who you are. Are you a founder? Are you a startup D2C company? Are you a brand? Are you a investor? It'll help me kind of take you through. So just hands up on, who are investors in this room. Okay, no investors. Oh, there is one? Sorry, I didn't see you. Hello, investor. How many brands in the room? Representing brands. Okay, terrific. Nice to see that. Okay, good to see that you're an investor and a brand. How many startups in the room? Okay, great. So we're going to try to keep this very engaging. Look, the house rules are, please interrupt me. Please put your hand up in the middle. This is not, I want to make this it's the first session of the day. You guys have made the effort to come all the way to Powai on, at 10:30 in the morning. So please interrupt me. I'm going to kick off the session with a video. Just to give you a sense of the mood of India and this young population of India, okay? So hopefully this video, it's a long video, I'm going to just show you an excerpt and we'll stop and move on. This was a video that we did about a year ago for a thought leadership summit of Tata CLiQ Luxury.
Shining bright above. The instant someone is a good person with like a really bright personality, they're beautiful to me. While I'm alone and blue as can be, dream a little dream of me.
Beauty to me is about wisdom, it's about grace, it's about curiosity more than anything, and I believe that anyone or anything that can inspire a sense of curiosity is also beautiful.
Liberation to me is being myself and completely owning it.
If someone had told me that I'd be posting pictures for a living 10 years ago, I'd laugh at them. Like, it's insane. Everybody's creating, everybody's a content creator now, and everybody's founding companies, and I think that's India on the move.
India on the move to me is infinitely creative because that's where it all comes from.
Me, India on the move means India is still in a developing country. People started accepting who we are, how we are, and the society started breaking all these stereotypes. In the future, I want to create something that is beneficial for my trans community.
I think my future avatar in 2033 would definitely be the farmer growing its own food.
celebration and not victimization anymore. Celebrating the fact we're Indian, we're here, and we're being appreciated all over the world. I think that's what India on the Move is about.
India on the Move is coming back to life, coming back to going out and keeping your ear to the ground and learning from our mistakes and trying to improve the world that we live in.
What stands the test of time is the dance floor. It's literally the only place where you see people free, happy. There is no concept of time, and it's always the same feeling no matter which dance floor you're at and which part of the world you're in and who you're with.
Something I really wanted to create in the future was an extremely new sort of cultural expression in India, using our old traditional music and ideas and many other cultural things.
Well, I hope that by the end of my life, I've been able to create a body of work, or at least one single piece of work that cuts across cultures and languages, so that when people from any place in the world watch it, it's able to evoke the same sentiment, and most importantly, that it's something that stays with them for a long time.
Liberation for me is just getting equal opportunities no matter what your age, your gender, your race, your appearance is. By not being mocked for the way I look, for the appearance that I have in mainland India.
Beauty to me is everything where love resides. It can be seen in two people, loving each other, or it can also be seen in paintings where it's intricately painted with so much love.
India on the move. India is today dominating everywhere. India today is on a dominance mode.
Beauty is power. If anything, everything.
Okay, so I guess this has given you a sense of where India is. This was shot almost over a year ago, and I thought it would be quite interesting for you to get a sense of, let's look at this in context to lots of data that is going to follow. So let's take a step back and do, some sort of intro on the India story. So we all know that India is exploding. It's a young and expansive population, 1.44 billion, and we know what's happened in this last decade. We've seen how the digitization of the revolution, the digital revolution, has changed the way we all live. If you just look at some of these numbers, which sort of buttress the case, which is essentially the internet users. It's 900 million internet users. It's actually greater than the population of many countries in the world. If you look at the smartphone users, it's a staggering 46%. If you look at the social media users, the UPI users, and the online shoppers. Now, although the online shoppers number is still a very small subset, it just goes to show that the opportunity exists, because everyone's wired up, everyone's on their phones, and everyone's got their UPI, they're all UPI users. So essentially the adoption, so we'll in the next few slides, and I'm not going to take you through all these numbers, I think some of you know this already, but I think this big decade that we went through talks about how digital payments have scaled. So from 1.4 trillion in 2021, we're poised to go to $23.2 trillion, which is a CAGR of over nearly 30% in this decade. And 84 billion UPI transactions, 900 million mobile wallets users and 220 million total online shoppers. So these numbers are staggering, but if you actually go to see the mix of digital payments was 10%, but it's moved to 20%. If you actually go to see that 79% of households have used a third-party digital payment. Now these are huge numbers and goes to show that this population of us, all of us are no longer worried to be online. So how does the e-commerce industry fit in here? Basically, the e-commerce industry is experiencing this massive growth and overall is becoming beating the US and is becoming the #2 e-commerce market by 2034. $70 billion worth of value of Indian online shopping market. That's the size of the online shopping market. Yet it's only 7% of the retail market. So see the opportunity there. Everyone who's in the offline business, one has to start thinking of online as well. And we've seen that. We've seen that with luxury brands. We've seen that with premium brands who were wary of online, being present online. We're seeing that change over the last 4 or 5 years. So the size of the e-commerce industry in India by 2030 is going to become $325 billion. I mean, that's massive. So what are the key drivers of this business? We all know it, but I'm just putting it together for all of us to acknowledge how important the e-commerce industry is. So with the expansion, really, of the mobile commerce, increasing mobile penetration, cheap data usage, local content, language content support, we've just made it more inclusive for customers across territories, across tiers to sort of access content and commerce. Again, our affordable payment solutions. We're going to deep dive into tier 2, tier 3 and how important those markets are for brands. I can't tell you how I've seen that happen so significantly. Brands are all veering towards those markets. Those top 10 cities of ours, which we've all overused or abused, everyone's now putting their money on tier 2, tier 3. Faster delivery, I mean, everyone wants quick commerce, we'll talk about that, but these are our key drivers, right? And wider assortment selection, obviously. Let's talk about the 3 core, and I love to sort of bucket where our consumers are. So these are if we just simplify it, 3 consumer cohorts, which are growing deep, but we have to sort of focus on these 3 consumer cohorts if you're in e-commerce. One is the growing tier 2, tier 3 landscape, and I do feel that with the rising internet penetration and the large numbers on the internet, we have to understand and acknowledge that tier 2, tier 3 has this growing ambition, growing wealth. They don't have access to brands. They don't have high streets in some cities. They don't have malls in some cities. They definitely don't have luxury, access to luxury brands. Yet they're scrolling. Yes, they're on mobile phones and they're accessing these brands. So how do you, and there was the time when they would go to the big cities to shop and experience brands. But today that generation who wants it immediately, there is this real opportunity to access tier 2, tier 3 cities. Tata CLiQ and Tata CLiQ Luxury literally are available to over 1,100 cities across the country, and we service upwards of 20,000 PIN codes. And there's no surprise when you see a PIN code and you don't know where that, which town it comes from. There is wealth and there is ambition, and there is this aspiring India in front of us. So focusing on tier 2, tier 3 now is today, like is for every brand, for every investor, for every new brand that's thinking of launching, don't miss that opportunity. Then comes the younger generation. I mean, honestly, we're a young country. Our average age, according to a recent study, average population of India is 28 and a half years. So this young 29-year-old is a very influential age group for us. This 29-year-old is savvy, is online, has a mind of its own, and it's actually rather influential. Brands are wanting to talk to this age group more and more. They are a very relevant, this Gen Z, everyone's talking about Gen Z and the millennial audience, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's a very important cohort to keep in mind. And then comes this fast-growing, affluent India. You see it at airports, you see it when you're traveling all over the world, you see it when you're, brands are constantly bragging about it as well. There are more and more, and we know that this country is, getting very quickly sort of adding to their millionaire, billionaire numbers. So who is this as affluent India? I'll just tell you from the lens of Tata CLiQ Luxury. We actually saw this 7-8 years ago, this trend of this aspirational India. And again, sitting across the country, there's wealth that, has been there in even tier 2 towns, but we never sort of treated them as that. We never targeted them with respect, I would say. We expected them to come to a big city like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, etc., the top 10 metros, and access luxury. But they skipped that and they went abroad directly to access luxury, food experiences, brand experiences, and so on and so forth. Today, they actually are taken very, very seriously by brands. Brands are going to them. Brands are creating bespoke, personalized services for them. Brands like Louis Vuitton and Gucci are actually creating customized experiences to them in their cities. So we need to think about targeting that affluent India more seriously. And there's a lot of education, content, so on and so forth that one needs to do for them. But it is not to be missed. Again, a very fast growing number that we see. So, I'm constantly talking about this, but I just wanted to throw some numbers here to it. So 57% of Tata CLiQ's luxury shopping comes from tier 2. And this is across categories. I mean, this is really, we went through this in a very scientific manner to say which categories do people want to shop online. We decided that the best way to do it was to go horizontal. Absolutely, there was a huge amount of data, that we looked at and surveys that we did, but it was very clear that there were men and women of that household wanted apparel, but they wanted footwear, they wanted watches, they wanted jewelry, they definitely wanted beauty. And we were very select in how we talked about beauty and Tata CLiQ Luxury. We thought high-end niche fragrances that people bought only from duty-free shopping was something that, is easily accessible, easy gift to give. And we realized that we became the #1 niche fragrance brand in beauty on Tata CLiQ Luxury. So that was an opportunity. These are all firsts that you explore when you go deep dive and curate brands to target to tier 2 towns. So 43% comes from obviously metros and tier 1, tier 2 towns, but the rest of and this is actually very similar to other e-commerce platforms, I'd say as well, that 40-60% is a split. So remember how important this, how the wealth is spread in the country and how important tier 2 is. I'm going to move on because we'll talk about convenience and all of that. But the other cohort, let's not forget this Gen Z revolution is here and the vibe shift, in terms of how they think. and which is why I thought that film was very interesting to see, because we're very, very conscious to say, who is this customer that we're talking to? We've got to have that same language. They're always scrolling. They're just always, I mean, we're always actually scrolling. I don't think it's now just a Gen Z phenomena, but it is something that we've very quickly learned from Gen Z. They're very well informed. They tend to do so much research before they decide on what they want to do, whether they're going for a brand, whether they want to go for a homegrown brand, whether they are not convinced. They are not just going to go for a trend blindly. They are just so researched. In fact, before they buy even hair care products, they're far more researched, I see today, than perhaps a generation before them. They're very conscious consumers as well. They sort of obviously save the planet. They're part of this generation who's seen all the ills that have taken place in the last decade and a half. They also have their own individualistic sort of take on how they want to be and how they want to live and why they don't want to live in a big city and why they want to quit the rat race, as they call it, and so on and so forth. They're very vocal and expressive, and they also want instant gratification, because that's how they just expect it. They don't know of any other way. And short attention span, I think we're all going through it, right? All of us need to go to some therapy or the other. So what I'd say in short is that we've got to keep in mind who we're dealing with before we build a brand, before we market a brand, before we take the brand to wherever we want to. But online is the future. It's the new economy. I call it the new economy. This is really where you can experiment with brands. This is where you can actually, and luxury brands are, and I'll give you some examples as we move forward, and I'm talking about that in a minute. So I think, I'm sure all of you know that we're talking, when we talk about this elite plus audience, and this is data from, I think, McKinsey or Bain, where we look at this 1 million elite plus audience and this 10 million when you count elite and elite plus. So this 10 million affluent household, and if you look at it, and I'm sure this is much higher, this is all disclosed by, I guess, taxes paid and all of that. So definitely this is a very kind of underballed number. But if you look at this $10 million household affluent number, this is this aspirational class who is looking to start buying their entry-level affluent, luxury brands. They are buying high-end brands like 𝐬𝐵 and Le Creuset. They are buying expensive beauty products. They are buying the handbags. Handbags as a category is our fastest growing category on luxury. And there is a white space. I constantly tell brands that there is this upward of 15,000 rupee brand, but there's nothing between that 8,000 to 12,000 sweet spot. That 15,000 and upward brand is exploding, but if anyone wants to launch handbags or any kind of leather goods or accessories, there is a huge market for it. Another category that's exploding online is watches and jewelry. Jewelry's just begun because of all the other reasons why, if you go to your own jeweler, you prefer if it's gold and pure silver and so on. But the way watches have exploded, and I'm talking about people buying expensive watches online. We did this experiment with Richemont and Swatch Group, which is Swiss watchmaking brands, where we launched them online in a boutique section on Tata CLiQ Luxury. And these are price points upward of $1 lakh. And lo and behold, people from pin codes unrecognizable were buying online without wanting to test or check on their wrist. What does this mean? They obviously are aware of recognizable brands like a Rado or a Tissot or a Cartier or and so on. And then they've already obviously gone, traveled, are well exposed, they've read about these brands, they want to gift this brand. Tata obviously is a recognizable name, so there's a lot of trust, and I must say that that really helps us when we build brands. Brands like to work with us because they know that it's a trusted brand, and therefore customers will trust, and trust plays a huge role, and let's not underplay that. That's a very, very large part of e-commerce. But this customer is ready to shop online. Price does not play a role. I mean, of course, we have different elements that we add, like assisted sales, where you have someone that you can call, that you can sort of have a quick conversation with to know that you're really buying. I mean, to get tips on, should I buy this or that? How will it work? And someone who's really trained by all of these maisons to actually give you that right kind of explanation that you need, right kind of inputs that you're looking for. So I'm moving on to the next slide. I think it's really, really important, again, to understand, and I can't explain enough the consumer behavior. Convenience and speed is something that they're all looking for. Everyone wants to actually have it, I mean, you know, nobody wants to, even a Mumbaikar, if you, I mean, have to think of going to Palladium to shop, you're going to think twice. If you know the brand and you're saying, okay, I know my size, or actually today with e-commerce, you know, even taking on, I mean, you can buy 4 products and return 4. So that convenience and speed and convenience at which you can get a brand that you want, it, you know, it is at that space that we're sitting at. So it really trumps going and experiencing. I mean, of course, people, let's not be, let's not, and I want to put this on the table, definitely there are, you know, before someone buys a high-priced product, you are adding to bag and browsing, and adding to bag and browsing, and sometimes high-priced products do take up to 25 days. Goes back and forth. There's a little bit of thought. But that browsing, we encourage that. Come browse, savor the experience. So we're never, particularly in Tata CLiQ Luxury, but even in Tata CLiQ, we spend a lot of time on allowing that customer to enjoy browsing, to actually read about the brand. So there's a lot of content that we spend time creating on the brand, with the brand, so that you enjoy browsing and you're fully educated on the brand before you take the decision. So we're not rushing you to the cart in any way. And I think that's really a key for all brands to understand that, you know, don't expect quick sales, because you've got to just develop that, you know, trust and confidence about your brand. After that, people just know, and they, you know, it works really, really well. So convenience, trust and security, we've talked about. Research before you purchase, I've talked about that. Sustainability, I mean, I think we try to incorporate all the values that we feel today's consumer is looking for. And we like to talk about that with our brands to say if any brand has, and let's not abuse the word sustainability, I think it's being used way too much, but we've got to find each brand has something that they're doing and tell that story, because customers, as we said, they read a lot, they like to be informed, and they get attracted to these sort of values that a brand brings. I think personalization and localization is the game changer for e-commerce. There's so much that you can do, and I think that's really where you can play, which is different from retail and offline. And social media and use it, I mean, you know, that this is, again, it's huge, and we can spend another whole day talking about how to do marketing online, how to launch a brand online, how to actually spend time with, you know, doing sustained campaigns online. How are you aware? And that's the other thing that brands don't realize, and sometimes, you know, and it's overwhelming. I understand today, for a marketeer today, there's so much to take care of. You firstly think of, do I need a brand ambassador or not? Do I go influencer or not? Should I sort of bank on organic user-generated content, and so on and so forth? But you've got to play, depending on your brand, of course, you've got to do a variety of different things. But all of this really has to be constantly played with your brand on e-commerce. Otherwise, you get lost because there are X number of brands online, and you've got to cleverly stay relevant and be there. And there are ways, and I see some brands doing it beautifully, and it's not about just blowing and splashing the cash. It's about doing it smartly. So, you know, again, just reinforcing the behavior, okay, on digital. The shift to mobile, we're spending, look at the number of hours we're spending, and everyone, by the way, is shopping on the mobile now. So all our businesses are driven on app, not even, I mean, there are people who shop on the web, and we have a web front for all of this, but the significant ease with which, you know, everything has to be happening on the mobile, and this is all thanks to 5G and connectivity that it's gone rampant. This omni-channel experience, and we like to say that we're an omni-channel retailer. We're a marketplace, but it's omni-channel. What does that really mean? We want to replicate the same experience that the brand gives to you offline. So you walk in the store and you're given a certain sort of feeling or certain way you're spoiled, whether it's a shoe brand or whether it's whatever, jewelry brand. How do you replicate that online? Now, there are levels and levels that I can talk about, but what I would say is we try to be consistent and give you the same kind of story. So it has to be synchronized. The collections have to be synchronized, the assortment has to be synchronized, the storytelling has to be synchronized, the launches and so on, and of course the prices have to be fully on parity. And there's some brands, I mean, Swarovski is a great example. Swarovski works with us in an omni-channel manner, and they've just grown online with us beautifully. And when you work like that with their brand teams, we become part of their team, and that's the ideal way to grow your business online. A data-driven engagement, I mean, you know, just leveraging everything, and we have access to where our customers are shopping, for which brands, so we spend a lot of time doing reviews with our brands to say, okay, this is really where the customer's sitting. And we have enough add to carts to tell you that they didn't shop, but they went, so upper funnel movement, what's happening in the lower funnel, how do we mobilize, what's happening, why are creatives not working, should we do some social campaigns or CRM activity, how do we do some emailers which are working harder for you, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think, you know, I think enough is being said about the rise of digital payments and the ease at which everyone now feels that, you know, I mean, we all using all sorts of, the UPI has really helped in the adoption of digital payments. I'm not going to really talk about it. So I just planted this slide in here. It belongs to something else, but I was very keen to talk to all of you on this. I think what's really, really interesting is for all brands, for any brand, to be very conscious of your storytelling and what's happening in the world. It's so important to place yourselves in the world. And you know, content-led commerce, and we as an e-commerce platform have to deliver good, relevant content. I mean, you know, I can take brand content and stick it in there, but customers and our Gen Z customers who are so savvy and are, you know, sort of on every single trend, you know, you have to be wary. So we have a section, we have digital magazines on our platform that actually constantly deliver dedicated content, what's happening in the world, whether it's fashion weeks, whether it's the Olympics. Sports has become now just something that the youth, whether you're playing a sport or not, you're just following it for so many different reasons. Brand endorsements is one. I mean, Neeraj Chopra itself could be, you can look at it from a brand point of view. So I brought this in to say that there are so many different sort of trending words that emerge out of, you know, different sort of, whether it's politics and you see the word brat became a thing with Kamala Harris, or you see that, you know, Olympics came up with a few words. We reapply that. So if you see this, the mobile phone, we have something called The Influencer, which is a digital magazine on Tata CLiQ Luxury, which, you know, does stories on different things. And they're all shoppable stories. You'll kind of do a story on the finale of The Succession. a series which had, all of them in these fancy watches. And it made, takes you straight to the watch page, and when your watches get sold through stories. I mean, we had a very high-end watch brand that was sold because of that story. So, I mean, just to say that content plays a huge role, and you have to think of how do we then work on collaborations with brands. I'm just checking, am I on time, Anish? Okay. Just have a few more slides maybe. So just, I can go on and on, but I think what's important is to say, be conscious of how do you tell your brand story well, how do you create collaborations, and definitely stitch that up into e-commerce, because there's an opportunity to do all of that on e-commerce. So what is India buying online? Let's take a step back. It began, I guess, really predominantly in the lockdown, which is now, gosh, 3-4 years ago, where we've forgotten, but it all began, I guess, with groceries and then pharmaceuticals and then a little bit of fashion. And for those people who weren't traveling because they couldn't travel, they started buying expensive items online because they were all sitting at home and trying to cook. So our home categories started blowing up. Then we started saying, okay, people were rearranging their wealth and they were buying expensive watches online. So we saw this emerge and we started seeing all the trends. But it's safe to say that the key categories, not only on the Tata platforms, but on all e-commerce platforms that are developing and growing and just sort of burgeoning, are apparel. Apparel and footwear are the top two categories, closely tying with accessories and watches. Beauty, of course, is another business. It's exploding, and beauty, we have something called Tata CLiQ Palette, but it's still very at nascent levels. But beauty, as we all know, is sort of another very fast-moving category. But wellness is also something that is doing extremely well. We believe in travel and fitness, and people are buying very expensive fitness gadgets online. Everyone's thinking and looking for inspiration on wellness, and they're quickly buying very expensive fitness gadgets online. And food and beverages and gourmet, I mean, that whole world is exploding as well. So what are the motivating factors? Again, just to reiterate, I know I've talked about it, and sorry if I'm repeating myself, but speed, reach, because don't forget tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. Access, everyone wants quick commerce now. I know that that's really upon us and people are just sort of constantly spelling on quick commerce. I don't understand it so much, the quick commerce. I mean, I wonder why we want everything right now, but sure, I get that. And everyone's looking for deals. I know that we're price sensitive. India's still a very deal-oriented. If I get a better deal on these 𝐴6 shoes, then I'll buy it online. Otherwise, I'll go in to the store. But I feel now more and more, particularly with our Tata CLiQ Luxury app, people and luxury brands don't like to, at least on the face of it, associate themselves with discounts, because that's their raison d'etre. Them creating this illusion of, something which is luxury, which can't be looked at as a discount or price sensitive, because behind the counter they may or may not, all don't. That being said, there are enough people now, when they want something, they buy full price. There are enough people. And they rather get, and American Express is a great example. They've been working with us. All the top banks work with us to offer, deals, offers, want to promote their cards. But American Express for years on luxury was, sort of offering their platinum gold partners, card holders, different offers on Tata CLiQ Luxury. But recently they said, okay, I don't want to offer discounts. I want to offer loyalty points. So everyone's moving towards loyalty. If we've noticed, everyone wants to make their brands more loyal. And that's the biggest new challenge, by the way. How do you create loyalty for your brand? I don't think we're there yet, because nobody is loyal to. Most times we're not loyal. We're always sort of saying, I'm going to try that. I wasn't happy with that. Actually, I've got 4 more. Oh, there's a new brand, right? But what's really happening is very slowly people are going to start moving towards offering loyalty. So the 10X program and the 5X program that American Express has started offers you points, which you then to redeem for something else. Tata New, which is our loyalty app, which is the app which allows all our Tata B2C customers, brands to be on the platform, whether you're West Side or whether you're Tanishq and Indian hotels, to sort of navigate in there and get points is another example. So Deals is going to be here for now, but I think you can move towards loyalty gradually as a brand, but you've got to build that story for yourself. So growing category, I think luxury is, and if any brand, and actually I've seen that trend, all brands at all levels are slowly increasing their prices, right? Slowly. It's cost to create, cost to market, cost to differentiate, all of that. But slowly you're also seeing that they want to sit in another space, very slowly. Indian brands have done that very cleverly. I mean, Good Earth is now almost unaffordable. Don't quote me, anyone. But, you know, I mean, so many brands are doing that. Luxury brands are doing that today as well. And they're creating that whole limited, so demand-supply game. Fewer watches, fewer handbags, more expensive. Chanel does that very well. Hermes does that very, very well. But luxury brands are becoming more expensive, and that's a growing category. There's so much aspiration. The other big trend that we're seeing is pre-owned. It's a global trend. Everyone's getting into pre-owned, and I feel we've and I'll move to the next slide maybe. Social commerce, okay. That's a countdown? Okay, so I'm wrapping. So quickly, pre-owned, we launched pre-owned and we was happily surprised. Huge market, as you can see, and categories, as you know, from antique furniture to art to was historically always in the space of pre-owned or vintage. But today, sneakers is a craze, jewelry, I mean, accessories. We launched with watches and we also launched with handbags, and we were happily surprised. There is a market, people are buying staggering prices of Rolex, 25 lakh rupee watches online without touching, feeling it. Of course, it's an authorized dealer and so on. So here's another market, huge opportunity. We're working and we're always open to authentic sellers who want to get in the space. Contact me. We're always looking for it. We found somebody young, super smart in Bangalore who started this online business for handbags. We onboarded her. She's delighted and doing very well, but huge opportunity. I'm moving on because I guess this is just differentiation online. How do you differentiate packaging? It's sustainable, it's circular. So, you know, you can call them and say, please pick up my packages, because how many boxes can you keep? These are beautiful boxes. You can use them again and again. People don't like to part with it, but they really embraced our circular packaging and they liked that we're sustainable. So we come pick up. We have loyalty programs, very, very interesting delivery programs. Many people do this unboxing. If they get a fancy delivery, they like to do an unboxing video and post it themselves. So really different ways. And last slide, I guess this is my last slide, just to say that the future, I mean, it's just begun. AI is changing the way e-commerce is going to work, from the way we do our shoots, the way we do tailored recommendations, the way we do target marketing. We've just got started. In fact, many of you who are out here actually have reached out. We don't know you. We'd love to actually understand how we can do better. We're in the learning curve. It's the future. So I'm just going to leave this as the last slide. I don't need to tell all of you what all of this is. We're all trying to discover it ourselves. Thank you very much.